She was the soul of the school, until the cruelest betrayal left her alone in front of everyone. On graduation night, Jessica waited for her boyfriend, dressed in the dress of her dreams, but he never arrived. And what she discovered when she entered the event marked her forever. But no one imagined how she would react. Stay until the end, because this story takes an unexpected turn. Before we begin, hit like and subscribe so we can continue creating stories like this. In the heart of Atlanta, where the Georgia sun bathed the streets with a golden glow, Jessica Foster was known for two things: her contagious laughter that lit up any room and her figure that didn't fit with the standards that others considered ideal. With 18 years recently completed and about to graduate from the prestigious St. Lawrence Academy, Jessica possessed a spirit that transformed the ordinary into extraordinary. Every party, every meeting, every simple conversation in the schoolyard became an unforgettable memory when she was present. Her ability to make even the most serious teachers laugh was legendary. "Jessica, please," exclaimed Ms. Reynolds, trying to maintain her composure while the young woman perfectly imitated the gestures of the mayor during his last visit to the school. "You're going to get me fired." But even the strict teacher couldn't prevent the corners of her lips from rising at Jessica's natural talent for comedy. What no one saw, however, was how that smile faded when she was alone with Tyler Barnes, the most popular boy in school, and to the surprise of many, her boyfriend for the past 6 months. Tyler was the son of the owner of the most exclusive hotel chain in Georgia. Tall, broad-shouldered, and with a perfect smile, he captained the football team and maintained an impeccable academic average. Everyone wanted to be like him or be with him. And he had chosen Jessica, something that still confused the girls who spent hours in the beauty salon seeking physical perfection. That May afternoon, while the preparations for graduation were in full swing, Jessica was waiting for Tyler at the Bell Tower, her favorite cafe for the cinnamon pastries they served. She was wearing a yellow dress that highlighted her brown skin and had gathered her abundant black hair in a braid adorned with small flowers. "You're late," she said, when Tyler finally appeared, still wearing his team uniform with damp hair from a recent shower. "Practice ran long," he replied, sitting across from her without giving her a greeting kiss. "Did you order already?" "I was waiting for you." An uncomfortable silence settled between them as the waiter took their orders. Jessica ordered her usual pastry and a coffee with milk. Tyler only ordered mineral water. "Aren't you eating anything?" she asked. "I'm on a strict diet now. The coach says I need to stay in shape for the college tryouts." He paused and looked at the pastry that had just arrived at the table. "Maybe you should consider something similar." The words fell like stones in Jessica's stomach. It wasn't the first time Tyler had made these kinds of comments, but they always hurt just as much. "It's just one pastry, Tyler. And yesterday it was tacos, and the day before that giant ice cream." His tone was apparently light, almost joking, but his eyes weren't smiling. "I'm just worried about you, Jess. Haven't you noticed how people look at us when we walk into a place together?" Jessica lowered her gaze to her pastry, suddenly without appetite. Of course she had noticed. The whispers, the sideways glances, the confused expressions. "What's someone like him doing with someone like her?" they seemed to ask. "You know I don't care what others think," she lied. "Well, you should care." Tyler took a sip of his water. "Graduation is in 2 weeks and everyone will be there. My parents, college recruiters, important people. I want them to see you as I see you, but sometimes you don't make it easy." And how did he see her? Jessica was no longer sure. At first, when Tyler started paying attention to her, she felt like the protagonist of those romantic movies where the popular boy falls in love with the ordinary girl. He made her laugh, listened to her talk about her dreams of studying performing arts, looked at her as if she were special. But those moments were increasingly scarce, replaced by subtle and not so subtle criticisms about her weight, her clothes, her way of talking too loudly, laughing too loudly, taking up too much space. "Do you have your dress for graduation yet?" he asked, slightly changing the subject. "Yes, I went with my mom last weekend. It's navy blue with a—" "Navy blue," Tyler interrupted. "Isn't that a very dull color? I thought you'd wear something black. It's more slimming." "Slimming," another word Tyler used constantly. Jessica breathed deeply. "I like navy blue," she replied firmly. "It matches my eyes." Tyler looked at her fixedly, as if evaluating her, and then his expression softened. He extended his hand across the table and took hers. "I just want you to look perfect that day. It's important to me." His thumb gently caressed the back of her hand. "You know, sometimes I think you're like a diamond in the rough. You have so much potential, Jess. If you'd just try a little harder." Jessica felt a lump in her throat. Why did Tyler's sweetest words always come wrapped in criticism? Why did his compliments always seem conditional? "My father confirmed he'll attend the graduation," Tyler continued, not noticing the effect of his words. "It's the first time he's taking time off from his business for something related to me. I want him to see that everything in my life is perfect." Everything in my life, thought Jessica, including her, like just another accessory that had to look impeccable, matching his suit and magazine cover smile. The rest of the afternoon passed with superficial conversations about college, summer plans, and the latest school gossip. Tyler was charming with the waiter, left a generous tip, and even greeted an elderly woman passing by their table by name. It was in those moments that Jessica remembered why she had fallen in love with him. His natural charisma, his ability to make everyone feel important. Everyone except her lately. When saying goodbye, Tyler kissed her lightly on the lips, a kiss so quick it almost seemed like a formality. "I'll pick you up at 7 on graduation day," he said. "And Jess, think about what I said about the dress, okay?" As she watched him drive away in his shiny sports car, an early graduation gift from his parents, Jessica wondered, not for the first time, if this teenage love was really worth all the small sacrifices she was making. The unspoken words, the contained smiles, the fragments of herself she was leaving behind to fit into Tyler Barnes's perfect life. What she didn't know was that this question would find an answer much sooner than she imagined. The days leading up to graduation passed in a whirlwind of emotions for Jessica. Between ceremony rehearsals, final exams, and goodbyes to classmates who would be leaving for different cities, she barely had time to reflect on her relationship with Tyler. The afternoon of graduation, Jessica was in her bedroom while her mother, Donna, helped her arrange her hair. The navy blue dress rested on the bed, shining and beautiful, with small silver sparkles that looked like stars in a night sky. "You look beautiful, my girl," said Donna, placing a pin with small flowers to hold back a rebellious strand. "Like a real princess." Jessica smiled at the mirror, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. She had spent the previous night debating whether she should listen to Tyler and wear a black dress instead of the blue one. She had even considered going out to buy one, but something inside her rebelled. It was her graduation too, not just Tyler's. "Are you nervous?" asked her mother, noticing her silence. "A little," Jessica replied, not wanting to worry her with the truth. "That's normal. It's an important day." Donna paused, as if deciding whether to continue. "Tyler is coming to pick you up, right?" Jessica nodded. Her family had met Tyler on a couple of occasions, and although they were kind to him, Jessica could notice a certain reservation, especially from her father, Frank. "He's a very handsome and well-mannered young man," Donna continued, carefully choosing her words. "But sometimes I wonder if he really sees how wonderful you are." Something in her mother's tone made Jessica look up to meet Donna's eyes in the mirror. "Why do you say that, Mum?" Donna sighed softly. "Because I've seen you change since you've been with him. You talk less, laugh less. And that laugh of yours, my love, is a gift you shouldn't keep to yourself." Her mother's words resonated deep within Jessica. She was right. Lately, she had caught herself containing her laughter, moderating her tone, taking up less space. And all to be the girlfriend Tyler wanted to show the world. Before she could respond, the doorbell announced someone's arrival. It was too early for it to be Tyler. "I'll get it," her father's voice was heard from the lower floor. Minutes later, her bedroom door opened and in came Kate Owens, her best friend since kindergarten. Kate was everything Jessica wasn't. Small, thin as a pencil, with hair always perfectly styled and a wardrobe that seemed taken from the pages of a fashion magazine. "Oh my God, you look spectacular," exclaimed Kate upon seeing her. That blue seems made for you. Jessica smiled, this time genuinely. Thank you, Katie. You look amazing too. Kate twirled to show off her red, fitted and elegant dress. I came to see if you needed anything before the ceremony, said Kate, sitting on the bed. And also to warn you that the idiot Ryan will be near our table. He wants to get back with me, can you believe it? After what he did to me. Ryan had been Kate's boyfriend for a brief period, until they discovered he was simultaneously dating a girl from another school. Ignore him, Jessica recommended. You know he's not worth it. I know, Kate made a dismissive gesture with her hand, but let's change the subject. Has Tyler talked to you today? Jessica shook her head. He must be busy with his parents. His father came especially for the ceremony. Kate frowned slightly. But the ceremony is at 8. Shouldn't he be here already to pick you up? Jessica looked at her watch. It was 6:45. Tyler had said he would pick her up at 7. He still has time, she said, trying to ignore the small twinge of uneasiness. But the minutes passed, and then a full hour, and Tyler neither arrived nor responded to her messages. At 10 to 8, with the ceremony about to start, Jessica was sitting in the living room, still in her gala dress, while Kate paced back and forth, furious. He's inconsiderate. A complete jerk, she exclaimed. How can he do this to you on such an important day? Jessica's parents exchanged worried looks. Finally, Frank took the keys to his truck. Come on, I'll take you, he said firmly. We're not going to let this ruin your graduation, honey. They arrived just as everyone was, beginning to take their places. The ceremony was held in the main courtyard of the school, decorated for the occasion with hanging lights, flowers, and a platform where the graduates would receive their diplomas. Jessica looked for Tyler as she headed to her assigned seat. She found him near the stage, with his characteristic elegant bearing in his dark grey suit, but he wasn't alone. At his side, clinging to his arm, smiled Valerie Mitchell, one of the most popular girls in school. Valerie, with her slender figure and perfectly arranged blonde hair, wore a black dress that seemed specifically designed for her. She laughed at something Tyler was whispering in her ear, while his parents watched them with evident approval. The world seemed to stop for Jessica. A buzzing filled her ears, drowning out the voices around her. What was happening? Why was Tyler with Valerie? Why hadn't he told her he wouldn't pick her up? Jess, are you okay? Kate's voice sounded distant, despite her being right beside her. Before she could answer, the principal took the microphone and asked everyone to take their seats to begin the ceremony. Jessica mechanically went to her place, 2 rows behind where Tyler was. From there, she could perfectly see the back of his head, leaning toward Valerie, whispering something that made her smile. The ceremony passed like a nebulous dream. Jessica barely registered when they called her name to receive her diploma. She went up to the stage, automatically smiled for the official photo, and returned to her seat. All the time her mind reviewed the last few days, looking for signs she might have missed, clues to this betrayal that now hit her like a public slap in the face. After the official ceremony, the party began. The music played loudly, colored. Lights illuminated the dance floor, and champagne flowed for the recent graduates. Jessica remained in a corner trying to go unnoticed, with Kate faithfully by her side. We should leave, suggested Kate, squeezing her hand in support. No, Jessica replied, with a determination that surprised even herself. I'm not going to run away. This is my graduation too. It was then that Tyler finally approached her. He came alone with an expression that tried to appear sorry, but failed to hide a certain satisfaction. Jess, we need to talk, he said, as if it were he who was offended. Now you want to talk? Jessica's voice was barely audible above the music. After standing me up? After showing up with Valerie as your date? It's not what it looks like. Tyler looked around, visibly uncomfortable in case someone was listening. My father insisted. I bring Valerie. Her family is partners with ours and you couldn't let me know, interrupted Jessica. You couldn't have the decency to send me a message so I wouldn't wait like a fool. Tyler had the audacity to appear offended. I tried to call you, but you didn't answer. It was such an obvious lie that Jessica almost laughed. She had been glued to her phone all afternoon, waiting for news from him. "Don't lie to me, Tyler. At least have the dignity to tell me the truth." Tyler seemed to deflate slightly. He looked toward where his parents were, chatting animatedly with Valerie's, and then looked back at Jessica. "Look, I'm sorry, really. But you have to understand my position. My father is finally interested in my future and wants me to take seriously the relationships that can benefit the family." "And I don't fit into that plan?" asked Jessica, although she already knew the answer. Tyler had the decency to look uncomfortable. "You're amazing, Jess. Really. But you're not what my family expects. You're not suitable." Suitable? The word fell like an ice block between them. "And Valerie is?" "Try to understand me, please." Tyler lowered his voice. "It's complicated. My father has very clear expectations." And Jessica raised a hand to stop him. Suddenly she felt strangely calm, as if something inside her had found clarity in the midst of the storm. "No, Tyler, it's not complicated, it's actually quite simple." Her eyes met his, with no trace of tears. "I'm not suitable for you. I never was. And I'm starting to think that's the best thing that could happen to me." Without waiting for his response, Jessica turned around and walked away. She didn't look back, not even when she heard Tyler calling her. She felt many eyes on her, but for the first time in a long time, she didn't care what they thought. That night, as she returned home with her parents and Kate, Jessica made a decision. She would never again allow someone to make her feel less for being who she was. The summer after graduation passed as a healing process for Jessica. The first days were difficult. Despite the public humiliation, a part of her still missed Tyler, or perhaps missed the idea of what they could have been together if he had really loved her as she was. Kate became her rock during that time. She visited her almost daily, forced her to leave the house when Jessica just wanted to hide under the covers, and listened patiently when she needed to vent. "I can't believe I wasted 6 months of my life with him," Jessica said one afternoon, as they sat on the small terrace of her house drinking lemonade. "How did I not see the signs?" "Because Tyler Barnes is an expert at showing only what he wants you to see," replied Kate. "Besides, you were in love. Love makes us blind, and sometimes a little foolish too." Jessica smiled weakly. "I feel so embarrassed. Everyone at graduation saw how he stood me up." "So what?" Kate straightened in her chair. "The only person who should feel shame is him. You did nothing wrong, Jess." In early August, Jessica received news that would change the course of her life. New York University offered her a full scholarship to study communication and performing arts, the program she had always dreamed of. "It's your opportunity, honey," exclaimed Frank, her father, when Jessica showed them the acceptance letter. "A new beginning far from here." The idea of moving to New York, almost 10 hours away from Atlanta, was both terrifying and exciting. It meant leaving behind her family, Kate, the safety of the familiar. But it also meant escaping the whispers, the looks of pity, the possibility of running into Tyler on every corner. "I'm going to do it," she finally decided. "I'm going to New York." The following weeks were a whirlwind of preparations, packing, saying goodbyes, resolving practical matters. Jessica barely had time to process the magnitude of the change she was about to experience. The night before leaving, while putting the last things in her suitcase, she found a photograph of her and Tyler taken months ago during a day out with friends. He was hugging her by the waist, both smiling at the camera. But now, with the clarity that distance gives, Jessica noticed something she had previously overlooked. The way Tyler's hand held her, almost possessively, how his smile seemed rehearsed, how his eyes didn't reflect the same affection he pretended to show. Without thinking twice, she tore up the photograph and threw it in the trash can. It was time to leave behind not only Tyler, but also the Jessica, who had allowed someone to make her feel less. New York welcomed her with its chaotic energy, endless streets, and constant movement. The NYU campus was a world in itself, vast and diverse. In the first days, Jessica felt overwhelmed, small amid so much novelty, But soon she discovered that this sensation of anonymity was liberating. Here, no one knew her. No one knew about her humiliation at graduation. No one had preconceived expectations about her. Her roommate in the student residence was Lisa Zarate, an extroverted girl from Boston who studied psychology and had a passion for photography. Lisa, with her contagious energy and carefree attitude toward life, quickly became her first friend in the big city. "You have to come with me to the theater club meeting," Lisa told her one afternoon, just 2 weeks after classes began. "They're looking for new members and I know you'd love it." Jessica hesitated. In Atlanta, she had participated in school plays and had always enjoyed theater, but the idea of exposing herself to a group of strangers terrified her. "I don't know. Lisa, I don't think I'm ready to—" "Nonsense," interrupted Lisa. "I don't accept excuses. You're coming with me." And that's how Jessica, almost reluctantly, found herself in the rehearsal room of the Performing Arts Department, surrounded by enthusiastic students who were animatedly talking about the next production, Life is a Dream by Calderon de la Barca. The group's director, Professor Henry Mitchell, a man in his 50s with a thick beard and kind eyes, asked the newcomers to introduce themselves and share their previous experience. When it was Jessica's turn, she felt the words getting stuck in her throat. "My name is Jessica Foster," she began with a barely audible voice. "I'm from Atlanta and I'm a first-year communication student. I've participated in some school plays, but nothing serious." Professor Mitchell observed her with interest. "And what brings you to theater, Jessica?" The question took her by surprise. What brought her to theater? Lisa's insistence? The desire to find a place where she fit in? Or was it something deeper? "I think," she began, searching for the right words, "I think I like the idea of being someone else for a moment, of living other lives, of telling stories that might help others to better understand themselves." The professor smiled, visibly pleased with her answer. "That's exactly what we're looking for here," he said. "People who understand that theater is not just entertainment, but a mirror where society can see itself reflected." That afternoon, Jessica auditioned for a secondary role in the play. To her surprise, Professor Mitchell asked her to also read for the main female role, that of Rosora. And a week later, when the cast was published, her name appeared next to that character. "I told you," exclaimed Lisa, hugging her tightly when they saw the list. "I knew you'd be perfect." The following months were intense. Between regular classes, theater rehearsals, and the new friendships she was forming, Jessica barely had time to think about her previous life in Atlanta. Sometimes Kate would call to update her on local gossip, who was dating whom, who had dropped out of college, who had moved. "Did you know Tyler and Valerie are no longer together?" Kate told her one night. "Apparently Tyler's dad discovered that the Mitchell family is almost bankrupt. They weren't so suitable after all." Jessica was surprised to discover that the news didn't give her any satisfaction. In fact, she hardly cared. Her life had taken such a different direction that Tyler Barnes seemed to belong to another existence, to a Jessica she no longer recognized. Because the truth was that she was changing. Not in the way Tyler had wanted her to change, not to fit into the mold he considered suitable, but to become a more authentic version of herself. Theater rehearsals had restored the confidence she had lost. Professor Mitchell was a demanding but fair mentor who saw in her a talent she didn't even know she possessed. "You have a gift, Jessica," he told her after a particularly good rehearsal, "an innate ability to connect with the audience, to make your emotions feel real. Don't waste it." And she wasn't wasting it. For the first time in her life, Jessica felt valued for what she could do, not judged for how she looked. Her body, which had been the subject of veiled criticism from Tyler, was now simply the vehicle through which she expressed her art, and that was liberating. At the university, she made new friends, people who accepted her as she was. James, a philosophy student with a passion for poetry, became one of her best friends. Diana, a dance student who laughed as loudly as she did. Elena, who studied veterinary medicine and rescued abandoned animals. A diverse group united by mutual respect and acceptance. With each passing month, Jessica blossomed, not only on stage but in all aspects of her life. She learned to care for her body with love, not to fulfill others' expectations, but out of respect for herself. She discovered the pleasure of moving, of dancing without inhibitions, of eating without guilt, of existing without apologizing for the space she occupied. By the end of her second year at university, when Life is a Dream premiered with great success, Jessica Foster was a different woman, not because she had changed physically, although a certain elegance and confidence had transformed her posture, her way of walking, the way she held others' gaze. The real change was inside her, in the certainty of her own worth, in the determination to never again allow someone to make her feel less. What she didn't know was that soon she would have the opportunity to test that determination, when the past she thought she had left behind would call once again at her door. 10 years can change many things. A decade after that humiliating graduation night, Jessica Foster was a woman fulfilled both professionally and personally. After graduating, with honors from NYU, she had built a solid career as a theater director and audiovisual content producer. Her company, Authentic Voices, specialized in bringing to life stories that rarely found space in traditional media, tales of ordinary people facing and overcoming extraordinary circumstances. Her most recent documentary, Bodies That Speak, an honest exploration of the relationship between self-esteem and body image, had gained recognition at several international festivals. Critics praised her ability to address complex issues with sensitivity without falling into commonplaces. Jessica was in her office in Brooklyn, New York, when she received an unexpected call. It was Kate who remained her friend despite the distance and time. "Jess, how's my favorite director?" Kate's voice sounded as enthusiastic as ever. "Busy, as usual," replied Jessica with a smile. "How are you and your husband and kids?" "All good, thanks. Michael is driving his father crazy with his obsession with soccer, and Sophie is still a mini-me, for better or worse." Kate paused. "But I'm calling about something specific. Do you remember Jason Morgan?" The name sounded vaguely familiar to Jessica. "The one who was in the debate club?" "That's him. Well, now he's the director of the New Hope Foundation here in Atlanta. They're organizing a charity event to raise funds for educational programs in marginalized communities." "That sounds wonderful, but they want you to be the guest of honor," interrupted Kate. "Your documentary has caused a sensation, and Jason thinks your personal story of overcoming is exactly what they need to inspire donors." Jessica remained silent, going back to Atlanta, facing the memories, possibly encountering people from the past. "I don't know, Kate. My schedule is quite complicated at the moment." "Please, at least consider it," insisted Kate. "The event is for a good cause, and everyone would be delighted to see you. Including me, of course. It's been years since we've seen each other except through video calls." Jessica promised to think about it. After hanging up, she approached the window of her office. New York stretched out before her, vibrant and chaotic. This city had given her the opportunity to reinvent herself, to discover her potential, to heal. Was she ready to return to the place where it all began? That night, while reviewing the details of the charity event that Kate had sent her by email, Jessica made her decision. It was time to close the circle. 3 weeks later, Jessica was landing at Atlanta Airport. Kate was waiting for her with a ridiculously large sign that said, "Welcome Superstar," and a bouquet of sunflowers, her favorite flowers. "Look at you," exclaimed Kate, hugging her tightly. "You look spectacular." Jessica laughed, returning the hug with equal enthusiasm. "And you're still as exaggerated as ever." The charity event would be held at the Imperial Hotel, one of the most luxurious in Atlanta. As the taxi took them to Kate's house, where Jessica would stay during her visit, both friends caught up on their lives. "So," Kate began in a casual tone, too casual, "there's something I should mention about the event." Jessica narrowed her eyes, immediately recognizing that tone. "What are you hiding from me?" Kate made a face. "The Imperial Hotel chain, where the event will be held, now belongs to Tyler Barnes. He inherited his father's business a few years ago and has considerably expanded the company." Jessica's heart took an unexpected turn. Tyler? After so many years without thinking about him, The mere mention of his name provoked a reaction she hadn't anticipated. "And that means?" "That he'll probably be present at the event," concluded Kate. "In fact, he's one of the main sponsors." "I'm sorry, I should have mentioned it earlier, but I was afraid you'd refuse to come." Jessica took a deep breath. The news had taken her by surprise, but she discovered that she didn't feel the panic or anxiety she would have expected. "It's okay," she finally said. "It's been 10 years, Kate. We're adults now. I can handle a casual encounter with Tyler. Barnes." Kate looked at her with admiration. "You've always been stronger than you think." The night of the event arrived faster than Jessica would have wished. She had chosen an elegant emerald-colored dress that highlighted her figure with sophistication. Her hair, now shorter and with a modern style, framed a face that had gained character and determination over the years. The Imperial Hotel was magnificently decorated for the occasion. Subtle lights illuminated the main hall, where Atlanta's elite gathered to contribute to the charitable cause. As Kate guided her among the guests, introducing her to old acquaintances and new faces, Jessica couldn't help but look for Tyler. She found him at the other end of the hall, surrounded by people who seemed attentive to his every word. Time had passed for him too. He was no longer the arrogant 18-year-old boy, but a businessman in his 30s, with an air of authority that seemed natural to him. The dark tailored suit accentuated his distinguished bearing, and some discreet silver at the temples gave him an interesting appearance. Jessica found herself observing him more than necessary. When Tyler finally turned his head and their gazes met across the hall, time seemed to stop. Tyler's expression went from surprise to amazement, and then to something harder to decipher: regret, admiration, or just curiosity. Jessica held his gaze calmly, even sketching a slight, polite smile before turning her attention back to the person she was talking to. She wasn't going to allow Tyler Barnes to disturb her tranquility again. "I think he's seen you," whispered Kate by her side. "I know," Jessica replied calmly. "It doesn't matter." But it did matter, on a level that not even she could fully understand. Seeing Tyler after so many years awakened contradictory feelings. It wasn't love, certainly. That youthful fire had extinguished long ago. It wasn't hatred either. She had overcome that stage. It was something more complex, a mixture of curiosity, learned indifference, and perhaps a subconscious desire to show him how much she had grown since that painful night. The official ceremony began with Jason Morgan's speech, thanking the attendees and explaining the Foundation's work. Then it was Jessica's turn. As she went up to the stage, she felt hundreds of eyes on her, but she was only interested in the impression she made on one. "Good evening, everyone," she began with a clear and confident voice. "It's an honor to be here tonight, supporting such a noble cause as education for those who need it most." Her speech was brief but powerful. She spoke about the importance of believing in oneself, of finding inner strength to overcome obstacles, of how each person deserves respect and dignity, regardless of their appearance or circumstances. She didn't specifically mention her personal experience with Tyler, but every word seemed to resonate with that chapter of her life. "We all deserve the opportunity to discover our potential," she concluded. "And that's exactly what the New Hope Foundation is offering these young people. I thank you for your generosity and for allowing me to share this evening with you." The applause was enthusiastic. As she descended from the stage, Jessica noticed that Tyler was watching her with an indecipherable expression. For a moment, she thought he would approach to talk to her, but instead, he simply slightly inclined, his head in a gesture that could be interpreted as respect. The rest of the evening passed in a whirlwind of conversations, congratulations on her work, and promises to stay in touch. It was almost at the end of the night, when many guests had already left, that Tyler finally approached her. "Jessica." His voice was deeper than she remembered, but with the same modulated tone as always. "It's been a long time." She turned to face him, surprised by the calm she felt. "Tyler," she responded simply, without offering more. He seemed momentarily disconcerted by her composure. "Your speech was impressive, as is your career. I followed your work." "Thank you," she said, maintaining a neutral tone. "Congratulations on the success of your hotels." An uncomfortable silence settled between them. There was so much to say, and at the same time, nothing that really mattered. "I was wondering if we could." "Talk," Tyler finally said. "Maybe have coffee tomorrow before you return to New York." Jessica considered it for a moment. What would she gain from that meeting? What could Tyler tell her that would change anything? "I'm sorry, my schedule is full," she replied, with kindness but firmness. "Perhaps another time." The disappointment on Tyler's face was evident, but he nodded with resignation. "Of course I understand, but if you change your mind..." He handed her a card with his contact information. Jessica took the card more out of courtesy than real interest. "Good night, Tyler. It was interesting to see you again." As she walked away to meet Kate, who was waiting for her near the exit, Jessica felt strangely light, as if she had dropped a weight she hadn't realized she was carrying. Confronting Tyler and discovering that he no longer had power over her was liberating. What she didn't know was that this brief encounter was just the beginning of what was to come. The next day dawned with unusual clarity in Atlanta. Jessica woke up early in Kate's house with the feeling that something important was about to happen. The encounter with Tyler the night before had stirred up memories she thought forgotten, but curiously she felt no anguish, but a strange peace. While having breakfast with Kate and her family, her phone vibrated with a message. It was Robert. Lewis, a former schoolmate with whom she had maintained a cordial but distant relationship over the years. "Jessica, I need to talk to you urgently. It's about Tyler. Can we meet today?" Intrigued, Jessica agreed to meet Robert at a nearby cafe at noon. Kate, always protective, insisted on accompanying her. "Who knows what this Robert wants," she said, while driving to the meeting place. "He was never particularly close to us in school." "That's precisely why I'm intrigued," replied Jessica. "He doesn't seem the type of person who would seek contact without an important reason." Robert was already waiting when they arrived. The years had softened his features, but he was still recognizable. Black hair perfectly combed, thin-framed glasses, and that slightly nervous air that had characterized him in adolescence. "Thanks for coming," he said after the initial greetings. "I wasn't sure if you'd want to see." "Chubby, considering everything." "What's this about, Robert?" asked Jessica, getting straight to the point. Robert took a sip of his coffee before responding. "It's about Tyler. Since he saw you last night at the event, he hasn't stopped talking about you, and not precisely in a respectful way." Jessica felt her stomach tense. "What do you mean exactly?" "He's telling anyone who will listen that you've only been successful because he left you, that humiliation was the best thing that could have happened to you." Robert seemed genuinely uncomfortable transmitting the message. "He's trying to take credit for your transformation and your achievements." Kate let out an exclamation of indignation, but Jessica remained surprisingly calm. "Why are you telling me this, Robert? We were never particularly close." Robert lowered his gaze toward his cup. "Because I too was like Tyler. In school I treated several people badly because they didn't fit with what I considered acceptable. And I've spent the last few years trying to make amends for that." He paused. "Besides, my younger sister is going through something similar to what you experienced. Her boyfriend constantly makes her feel inadequate, criticizes her for her weight, for how she talks, for how she dresses. It reminds me too much of how Tyler treated you." The revelation hit Jessica hard. It wasn't just about the past, it was about patterns that kept repeating themselves, about other women who were experiencing the same thing she had lived through. "Thank you for telling me." "Robert," she finally said, "I truly appreciate it." After Robert left, Jessica and Kate stayed a while longer at the cafe, processing what they had just heard. "What are you going to do?" asked Kate. "We could make him regret it. I have some contacts in local media who would be delighted to know the true story of the exemplary businessman Tyler Barnes." Jessica shook her head. "This isn't about revenge, Kate. It never has been," she reflected for a moment. "But there is something I can do, something more important than confronting Tyler." That afternoon, Jessica made several calls to her team in New York, to some contacts in psychological support organizations, and finally to Jason Morgan, the director of the New Hope Foundation. I want to propose a project, she told him. A specific emotional support program for young women in relationships that undermine their self-esteem. Not physically abusive relationships, which already have visibility, but those other ones, the silent ones, the ones that destroy from within. Jason showed immediate enthusiasm for the idea. Before the day ended, they had outlined a preliminary plan and agreed on a series of meetings to develop it formally. When Jessica told Kate about her initiative, her friend hugged her tightly. "You always turn pain into something beautiful," she said. "It's your superpower." The following days were a whirlwind of activity. Jessica extended her stay in Atlanta to launch the project. She met with psychologists, social workers, educators, and potential funders. The response was overwhelmingly positive. The project, which she called Inner Mirror, would begin as a pilot program in 3 high schools in Atlanta, with plans to expand if successful. It would include workshops, individual and group support sessions, and an awareness campaign about emotionally abusive relationships. A week after the charity event, as Jessica finished a meeting with the team that would implement the program, she received an unexpected call. It was Emily Garcia, Tyler Barnes' assistant, requesting an urgent meeting with him. "Mr. Barnes has heard about your Inner Mirror project and is interested in discussing possible avenues for collaboration," explained Emily in a professional tone. Jessica hesitated. Her instinct told her to keep her distance, but the rational part of her mind recognized that the support of someone with Tyler's influence and resources could be valuable for the project. "All right," she finally accepted. "Tomorrow at 11 at the Cultural Hotel Cafe." She deliberately chose a public, neutral place, not Tyler's luxurious hotels. If she was going to have this conversation, it would be on her terms. The Cultural Hotel was a small boutique establishment in downtown Atlanta, known for its artistic and relaxed atmosphere. Jessica arrived punctually, dressed with simple elegance. Cream linen pants, navy blue silk blouse, and a silver necklace that had been a gift from her mother when she graduated from university. Tyler was already waiting at a discreet table at the back of the cafe. His impeccable gray suit contrasted with the bohemian atmosphere of the place, making him look slightly out of place. He stood up when he saw her arrive with a gesture that denoted a mixture of nervousness and determination. "Thank you for agreeing to see me," he said, as she took a seat across from him. "Your assistant mentioned you wanted to talk about the project," Jessica responded, going straight to the point. Tyler seemed momentarily disconcerted by her frankness, but quickly regained his composure. "Yes, that's what I said. But the truth is that I wanted to talk to you, about us, about the past." Jessica felt a twinge of irritation. She had accepted the meeting under false pretenses. "There is no us, Tyler, and the past is exactly that, past." "Please," his voice had a pleading tone she had never heard from him. "Just a few minutes." Something in his expression, a vulnerability that the arrogant Tyler Barnes would never have shown 10 years ago, made Jessica nod slightly. 5 minutes. Tyler took a deep breath before speaking. "I've been following your career for years, your documentaries, your interviews, your work. It's impressive what you've accomplished," he paused. "And every time I saw something new about you, I remembered that graduation night and felt ashamed, not just for what I did, but for the person I was." Jessica maintained a neutral expression, although internally she was surprised by the apparent sincerity in his words. "When I saw you at the event the other night, it was as if time hadn't passed. You were there, radiant, self-assured, successful. Everything you always were, but that I was too blind to see," continued Tyler. "And I'm still the same superficial idiot, just with more money and less hair." This last comment provoked an involuntary smile from Jessica. "It's been 10 years, Tyler. People change." "Some more than others," he replied with a hint of bitterness. "I heard about your new project. Robert told me he had spoken with you." Jessica tensed. "Did Robert tell you?" "Everything," confirmed Tyler, "including what I've been saying about you, and he was right to expose me." He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture Jessica remembered from their school days. The truth is that I felt threatened when I saw you, so complete, so fulfilled, while my life is a mess of failed relationships and empty successes. I'm not here to receive your confessions or to absolve you, Tyler, Jessica said firmly. If you truly regret, show it with actions, not words. That's exactly what I want to do, he replied with renewed conviction. I want to support your project, not as a way to atone for my guilt, but because I believe in what you're doing. My niece is in one of those schools where you'll implement the program, and she's going through something similar. She's 15 and already obsessed with her image, with being perfect for a boyfriend who treats her the way I treated you. Tyler's words fell like a weight on Jessica. It was heartbreaking to think that these patterns kept repeating themselves, generation after generation. The project already has sufficient funding, she said, cautious. It's not about money, insisted Tyler. I can offer spaces in the hotels for workshops and conferences, contacts with media, to give visibility to the initiative, even my own experience, as an example of what not to do. Jessica looked at him fixedly, looking for signs of manipulation or falsehood in his eyes, but she only found a raw sincerity she had never seen in him. I'll think about it, she finally said. Not for you, but for the girls who could benefit. That's all I ask, Tyler seemed relieved. And Jessica, I'm truly sorry for everything. She nodded, acknowledging the apology without necessarily fully accepting it. The past can't be changed, Tyler. We can only decide what to do with the present. Leaving the cafe, Jessica felt strangely at peace. She hadn't forgiven Tyler, at least not completely, but she also didn't feel the need to punish him or to obtain some kind of retribution. Time had done its work, transforming both of them, in ways neither could have anticipated. In the following months, the Inner Mirror project took off strongly. Tyler kept his word, providing resources and spaces without trying to take control or claim prominence. He remained respectfully in the background, supporting without interfering. The stories began to arrive, girls who found the courage to leave destructive relationships, young women who learned to recognize patterns of emotional manipulation, teenagers who discovered their worth beyond their physical appearance. A year after the program's launch, Jessica was invited to give a lecture at the Fox Theater in Atlanta, one of the city's most prestigious cultural spaces. The auditorium was filled to maximum capacity. Students, educators, parents, all gathered to hear about the impact of Inner Mirror. From the stage, Jessica saw Kate in the front row, smiling at her with pride. Next to her were her parents, who had traveled from their town to see their daughter shine. And in the last row, almost hidden in the shadows, she recognized Tyler's silhouette. The path to self-acceptance is never linear, said Jessica, concluding her talk. Sometimes we need to distance ourselves to find ourselves. Sometimes the deepest wounds become our greatest strengths, and sometimes what seems like a devastating end is just the beginning of something extraordinary. The applause was deafening. As she greeted the audience, Jessica felt immense gratitude for everything she had experienced, even for the pain, because that pain had led her here, to this moment, to this version of herself that she would never have discovered if she hadn't had to rebuild herself from scratch. At the end of the event, amidst hugs and congratulations, she noticed that Tyler was timidly approaching. He carried a bouquet of sunflowers, her favorite flowers. "You were brilliant," he said, offering her the flowers. "As always." "Thank you," she replied, accepting the bouquet with a polite smile. "I owe you one more apology," continued Tyler. "A few days ago, a magazine wanted to interview me about the program and my participation in it. They insinuated that I had been an inspiration for you." He made a face of disgust at the idea. "I told them the truth, the whole truth, about how I treated you, about how wrong I was, about how you are the sole architect of your success." Jessica looked at him with surprise. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I had to," he replied with conviction. "It's time for everyone to know the true story, not to bring me down, but to elevate you." At that moment, Kate approached, interrupting the conversation. "Excuse me, Tyler, but we have a pending celebration," she said, taking Jessica's arm. "Years of friendship take priority over, well, whatever this is." Tyler smiled with resignation. Of course, he turned to Jessica. I just wanted to tell you that I'm proud to know you, and that if you ever need anything, anything at all, I'll be there. No conditions, no expectations. I'll keep that in mind, replied Jessica, with a sincerity that surprised even herself. As she walked away with Kate, Jessica felt a strange sense of closure. The circle had finally been completed. That teenager who had made her feel inadequate, for her appearance, was now a man who publicly recognized his mistake and bowed to her strength. There was no romantic reconciliation, no dramatic forgiveness with tears. Real life rarely follows the perfect scripts of soap operas. Instead, there was something more valuable: growth, learning, and the satisfaction of knowing that both had evolved from that painful experience. In the years that followed, the Inner Mirror program expanded throughout the United States, reaching thousands of young people. Jessica continued with her career, producing documentaries that gave voice to those who were rarely heard. Occasionally, she would run into Tyler at events related to the program, maintaining a cordial but distant relationship. What had begun as a teenage humiliation had transformed into a driving force that changed not only her life, but the lives of many other women. The girl with the contagious laugh who was once rejected for not fitting into a predetermined mold now inspired others to create their own molds, to define themselves, to take up space without apologizing. And that, Jessica discovered, was the greatest victory of all. Dear listeners, we hope that Jessica Foster's story has moved and inspired you. The path to self-acceptance and self-love is not always easy, but as we've seen, it can transform us in extraordinary ways. To continue this emotional journey, we've prepared a special playlist with equally captivating stories about personal, overcoming and inner growth. Find it here by clicking to your left. If you liked this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. Each week we bring new narratives that explore the complexity of human relationships and the power of authenticity. Your comments inspire us to continue creating content that touches the heart and feeds the soul. Have you experienced something similar to Jessica? Or perhaps you know someone who is going through a similar situation? Share it in the comments. Your stories may be the light that someone else needs right now. We'll be waiting for you in our next story.